Every single day, we put a ton of trust in businesses with our money, our data, even our health. But what's guiding their choices when the pressure's on and no one's looking? Well, that's where business ethics comes in. And believe me, understanding it has never been more important. So let's dive in.
This really is the big question, isn't it? Is a company's one and only job to make as much money as possible? Or does it have a much bigger responsibility to the world around it? We're going to really unpack what separates a business that's just profitable from one that's genuinely good.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the basics, kind of defining our moral compass. Then we'll see how those big ideas actually play out in the real world of business. We'll even sketch out a blueprint for what an ethical company looks like. And finally, we'll get to the real kicker, why doing good is almost always the smartest business strategy you can have. Okay, first things first. Before we can even start talking about business ethics, we all have to be on the same page about what ethics itself even means, right? It's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but what is it really? A good way to think about ethics is like it's the operating system for your conscience. It's that set of principles, things like honesty, fairness, responsibility, that helps us figure out what to do in all those messy gray areas when the rules aren't just black and white. And this is a super important point. Just because something is legal doesn't automatically make it ethical. The law, that's the floor. It's the absolute bare minimum you have to do to stay out of trouble. Ethics, on the other hand, that's the ceiling. That's about choosing what you should do to be better.
All right, so we've got our definition locked down. Now let's put it to work. What actually happens when these ideas about right and wrong crash into the fast-paced, profit-driven world of business? To put it simply, business ethics is all about weaving those moral principles right into the DNA of a company. It's about making a conscious choice to balance that drive for profit with a real, genuine responsibility to people, your employees, your customers, and the community as a whole. Now, this is a fantastic little framework to remember, the 3 C's. It's like a quick mental checklist. First up, compliance. Are you following the rules? That's the baseline. Then, contribution. Are you actually making things better for society? And finally, consequences. Have you really thought through the ripple effects of your actions on, well, everyone and everything? Okay, so theory is one thing, but what does an ethical business actually look like in the real world? Let's try to build a blueprint for what it takes to put all these ideas into practice. An ethical business is really built on a few core pillars that just aren't up for debate. It's a business that actively commits to treating its people with dignity. It insists on being fair and honest with its customers. It takes real ownership of its impact on the planet. And maybe most importantly, it guarantees its products are safe. And listen, none of those other pillars can even stand up without this one, leadership. An ethical company culture is never an accident. It has to be built intentionally from the very top. When leaders don't just talk the talk, but actually walk the walk, it sends a powerful message that sets the standard for the entire organization. Now, this all sounds really noble and good, but let's get down to it. Let's talk about the bottom line. Is being ethical actually profitable? Well, the answer might just surprise you. Turns out, being ethical can be one of the smartest financial moves a company can make. The big idea here is that we have to expand how we define success. It can't just be about profit for shareholders. It's got to be about creating real value for everyone the business touches, from customers and employees to suppliers and the local community. The real goal is shared prosperity, not just a fatter stock price. So, beyond just feeling good about what you do, what are the actual tangible benefits? What's the real payoff for taking the high road? Well, the first and probably the most valuable payoff is trust. Seriously, trust is the new currency in business. It's what makes a customer choose you over and over again, what makes a great employee decide to stick around, and what convinces an investor to bet on you for the long haul. And you can't buy it. You can only earn it through consistent, ethical actions. And that trust, it pays off big time in the form of a rock-solid reputation. When a company is known for doing the right thing, it becomes a magnet. It attracts the best talent, it earns incredible customer loyalty, and it builds this kind of brand resilience that protects it when things get tough. Money alone just can't buy that. And that brings us to the ultimate payoff. Sure, cutting corners might give you a quick boost, but it's a dangerous game.
True, sustainable success, the kind that builds companies that last for generations, is almost always built on a solid foundation of doing business the right way. So let's leave you with this thought experiment. If you were handed the keys, if you were CEO for just one day, what's the one ethical change you'd make right away? What principle would you build your entire company around? It's a pretty interesting question to think about. And the answer says a lot about what it really means to be a good business. Thanks for tuning in.